G'day guys, Cam and Tiff, Wild Touring, and welcome to this month's Touring Talk. This will be Touring Talk number 3, Tiff.
Yes, 3 months in, and we come to you live from Dundee Beach.
Yeah, check this out. This is beautiful. This is a little a hip camp or a private camp in Dundee, Northern Territory. You'll see this shortly in coming episodes, but it is bloody beautiful.
Yeah.
Anyway, Touring Talk is all about the nerdy stuff, the statistics, economy, budget, how much money it costs to do this kind of thing. And then towards the end of the episode, we're going to jump into frequently asked questions. And this week's topic is going to be, or this month's topic, sorry, is going to be spare parts and tools for the car and the caravan, what we've taken away with us.
Yeah. I also wanted to sort of bring you up to speed on where we are. So I've had a few questions from people, or a few requests from people asking if we could start implementing sort of like a map of where we've been or where we are in each episode.
And timing.
And timing. I'm probably not going to do it in each episode, but what I'll do is I'll start implementing it in each monthly touring talk. So I'll get you up to speed on where we are now, and then in future episodes, I'll tell you like where we've been that month.
Yeah.
So to catch you up to speed, we left Perth in early March and we made our way along the Nullarbor. We did the Eyre Peninsula, we worked our way up to the Flinders Ranges, Oodnadatta Track, Cooper Pedy, up to Alice Springs. Then we did the Tanami Track to the Kununurra area, Kimberley area. Spent a little bit of time around the Kimberley, and now we've made our way into the Northern Territory, currently in Dundee Beach.
Yeah, and you join us in early June now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a heap of fun so far, and we've still got a lot of fun stuff in front of us, but you'll see that as we get there.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get into the nerdy stuff, the stats, the budget, all the rest of it.
Yep.
Let's do it.
So starting with fuel, total fuel cost was $1,296, which is a fair bit lower than previous months, and that's because we did a lot less Ks. So we did roughly 2,500 Ks, where in previous months we've done 3,500.
Yeah, and there's a good reason for that. As you'll see already, yeah, you've probably seen already, and you'll also see this coming week as well. We spent a fair bit of time, nearly a full month, hanging around the Kununurra area, waiting for tracks to open. There was a fair bit of late unseasonal rain, which shut tracks that we were planning to do.
Yeah.
And we love the Kununurra area, the East Kimberley anyway, so we hung around there a little bit longer than expected, which meant that we didn't do a hell of a lot of Ks. But we still spent a fair amount of money.
Yes, as you'll see.
Yeah.
So just jumping back a little bit, fuel economy was 21.94.
Which I'm happy with.
Litres per 100, which is pretty much the same as the month previous to that too.
That's calmed down a little bit since we actually first took off though, hasn't it?
Yeah, the Nullarbor we had horrendous. And you hear people say, you know, if you get the wrong wind or whatever along the Nullarbor, then
and we did.
It's horrendous,
I think that spiked up to something like 26, 27. Then we kind of averaged out around 23, 24.
Yeah.
And now we're sort of sitting around 21, 22. So economy is getting better and better. And there has been less wind up here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But you always say that you don't drive for economy.
No, I
You don't drive particularly slow. And we have noticed when you have slowed down, we definitely do get better economy.
Having said that, I drive at the speed limit, but I drive on the speed limit, not 10, 20 Ks under.
Yeah.
Like some really frustrating people do.
Accommodation cost was $1,567, so a fair bit more than previous months. There is a good reason for that. Like you said, we hung around Kununurra for a while. We had quite a few personal things come up, dentist visits, tyres that blew out.
Car servicing.
So we had to stay around town. You did a fishing trip, so I wanted to be in town as well with the kids. El Questro was really expensive. Like some key places in the Kimberley are very expensive, as you can see. So yeah, 14 nights at caravan parks, 10 nights at stations or hip camps, 3 nights free camps, and 4 nights in national parks. Yeah,
the caravan park's also not a bad thing at that time of the year because it is dry season, but it was still quite humid, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. When we first arrived to Kununurra, it was very humid still.
Yeah, so it was nice to be by a pool for the kids to have a cool off, and it was nice to have aircon running in the caravan. It's pretty good now. Now it's calmed off a little bit. The humidity's dropped. The temperature's sort of stabilised. We're pretty comfortable now off power. But yeah, I don't regret that for a second.
So hard in places like this though. You're right on the beach and you can't even swim.
I know.
There's no pool here.
The Kimberley, the Territory, it's such a tease.
Yeah. Moving on to groceries and alcohol, which Cam has very conveniently combined together. Total cost was $1,874, which is about average with what we've spent other months. I mean, even grocery shopping is just so expensive these days.
Yeah, look, that's pretty much like relative of what we were spending back in Perth a week, around anywhere from sort of $300 to $500 you could spend a week. You know, probably $300 to $400 we'd spend normally in Perth.
Yeah, I must admit, at home, I did a lot of little shops, so you don't notice it so much.
It adds up.
Like I'd walk up the pram with Brodie and just stick a basket full in, and that was $100 at a time, and you don't notice it. But now that we're doing very strategic grocery shops between towns, and you know, I just did an order this morning for Darwin, it was $560, and that will maybe get us 2 weeks if we're really lucky.
Now bear in mind that included nappies, wipes, laundry detergent, stuff like that, which is expensive for this little man. But it didn't include meat or anything like that, because our freezer is totally stocked full of meat still from Ryan's Quality Meats. They sent us a delivery in Kununurra. So yeah, it is expensive, but also we're actually being quite careful about that. We're doing our really big shops when we're in major towns, so we can get to a Woolies or a Coles. We're trying not to do, look, we spend money in country towns as we're passing through, but we're not doing the full fortnight shop in a country town.
Sometimes you just can't. Like we tried to do a shop at
Bitter Springs.
Bitter Springs, coming into Dundee, and they just didn't have anything. They didn't have the yogurt, the flour, and you know, just other stuff.
Yeah, couldn't get bacon, couldn't get eggs. You know, there was only skim milk, stuff like that.
Yeah,
but anyway, moving on.
Moving on to dining out, tourism activities. Combined $1,753. Now $450 of that is in swag and the fishing stuff that you had for your boys' trip.
Oh, and I spent a bomb on fishing gear.
On Keep River.
Ironically, I spent a bomb on fishing gear, and then I caught the fish on a bloody $15 hand line, but you get that.
So we did say we were going to rein it in, and I think we have this month, but yeah, not so much in April.
Yeah.
So combined total cost comes to $6,044, which is pretty on par with previous months, and that's only because our fuel cost was so much lower. Yeah, so that breaks down to about $1,500 a week, and like we've said previously, we did expect on this trip to be spending between $1,500 and $2,000 a week from what we'd heard. Yeah, I'd heard 2,000 was the new sort of average a week. So
yeah.
We're not quite there, but we were quite there. So yeah, 6,000 for that month, but what we haven't said, and because it's very specific to us, I haven't included some really, really huge costs that we had. So we did spend pretty much that $6,000 again on top of the $6,000. It was just over $7,000. And that was on a dentist, very, very expensive dentist visit. And
a once every 10-year dentist visit.
Yeah, sure, you probably get your money's worth in the end. Except you maxed out your cap for private health insurance.
What else? We covered a drone that I totaled.
The drone. We broke the drone, so we had to buy a new one. We didn't have to, but we did.
Well, we did for us.
Yeah.
Because it's, you know, what we do.
Yeah. And then we also spent $2,500 on a car service and two new tyres, which you'll see in
next week's episode, or this weekend's episode. So yeah, we stayed far too long in Kununurra. No, that's not true. We love Kununurra, but we overstayed our visit there, and we spent too much money.
We feel like Kununurra has a little bit of a curse over us. Every time we go there now, something bad happens. A dentist, a drone. Yeah.
I'd still go back though. I love Kununurra.
Yeah, beautiful. But yeah, the budget there was just horrendous.
On that note,
absolutely horrendous.
Places that we love and we don't love.
Yeah. So.
Oh, let's explain something here just quickly. So, in these monthly touring talks, we've been discussing our favourite campsites and our least favourite campsites. What we realised is that
we were going by an actual calendar month, whereas what you see on YouTube is not technically a month for us. So we're just going to go back and talk about the previous 4 episodes.
That you guys would have seen, because we are getting ahead on episodes. We're actually getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, which is, you know, by no accident. So yeah, we'll just talk about the last 4 episodes that you've seen. Yeah. And then I think what we'll do is, at the end of the trip, we'll talk about our overall favourite and least favourite campsites.
Campsites and regions as well.
Yeah. So going by the last 4 episodes...
Yeah. So
favourite campsite, Tivy?
For me, it was that free camp. I think it was called the Lookout along the Tanami. We had the dingoes hanging around all night. We sung karaoke. It was just a really nice night.
Yeah. This has been a ripper month for us, actually. We've done a couple of tracks that were high up on our bucket list and really enjoyed them. Tanami was one of them. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Some people would find that track boring.
Boring, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's much like the Unadata, which we found boring.
Yeah.
It's just...
a lot of it is just the experience you have at the
Yeah.
time, and what made it special for us was that camp.
Was the dingoes.
The dingoes coming in at night, and just...
Dad,
Yeah,
can I go on the swing?
shortly, buddy.
Yes.
There's
Chloe, I'll get Chloe to take you. You talk about your favourite camp.
I thoroughly enjoyed that Ord River camp on the banks of the Ord River, sitting on those granite outcrop or whatever.
Outcrops, yeah.
Sitting on the sides of the Ord River. Had the whole place to ourselves. It was just stunning, absolutely beautiful. I love that.
It was nice. The
Yeah.
flies were bad there though.
You know what? I don't even remember the flies
Yeah, I
because it
know.
was just so
Because you were
good.
too busy fishing.
Yeah, I want to go back there and put
Yeah.
more effort in fishing.
And then the worst campsite, I don't think we had any this month. They were all pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah. I can't say any of them were particularly bad.
yeah. If you had to pick one though, could you?
Maybe that first one along the Tanami.
Yeah,
We had a
okay.
really close neighbour and the flies were bad and we weren't sure about the fuel situation because we hadn't been in touch.
True.
With the,
Comes down to experience
Yeah.
again, doesn't it? Not so much the place. Yeah, I'd agree
Yeah.
with you. But overall, had a ripper month. Really enjoyed all the places we went.
Yeah.
Is that it for all our...
That's it.
Yeah.
Now we're going to roll on to spares and tools and...
Yeah, the FAQ section of Touring Talk. I've already pre-recorded this at the last campsite, so I'll roll that on now. Rightio, now's actually a good time to show you what sort of spares and stuff we carry and tools and whatnot, because I'm actually doing a little bit of maintenance on the caravan. I'll discuss it in this episode that we're filming now, the trip episode, but just got to nip up one of those wheel bearings. I can feel a little bit of movement in it. If you're interested in me filming a separate bit of footage on maintenance and kind of checks and stuff I do on the car and the caravan between regular services, I can do that. But for now, we'll chat about spares and stuff. So there's spares I need for the caravan and there's spares I need for the car. You've got to think about where you're going to be putting your spares, because you've got to be aware that sometimes you're going to be disconnected like I am now. You're out and about full driving. You need to have spares and tools and parts packed away in the car to fix anything that arises when you're away from the van. So to show you how I do that sort of split of bits and pieces, I've kept things separate. So I'll show you the car parts and spares and stuff first, and then I'll show you the caravan ones, and they are pretty different anyway. All right, we'll start with the car. So let's start with like just basic hand tools. I've got a tool wrap here, which I'll go through. All this stuff, there's a fair bit of gear here. It just gets hidden away where it can. So actually, interestingly, none of it is in my drawer system. Some of it is hidden away up here in the K-on shelf, and some of it is hidden away underneath the driver's and the passenger's seat. There's a fair bit of room under there. And these little bags from AOS, they're an under-seat bag. They fit really nicely under the seats. They also fit nicely on top of the K-on shelf. Yeah, anyway, tool roll. Just basic hand tools, like I said. Not a tradesman, don't have flashy gear. It's all really old stuff. What have we got in there? A Stanley blade, some Phillips heads, some flat blade screwdrivers, a good set of Allen keys, metric, a couple of adjustable spanners in there, a bigger adjustable spanner, cutters, pliers, a circlip tool, and all the attachments. You're going to want a circlip tool. I've got like a one with multiple different heads, which is really handy when you need it, trust me. I've got some geared metric spanners there. I only go up to 17 mil, so I make sure that my sockets go up higher, and then I've also got an adjustable spanner if I need that as well. Good set of metric sockets there. I use a 1/2 inch, and I've got reducers to go down to a 1/4 inch for the smaller size sockets. A couple of different size extensions for that, and you're definitely going to want a good breaker bar as well if I can get it out. That's basically it. The only thing that's missing from there that should be in there, a good set of grips like this, adjustable grips. These are those adjustable groove grips, so they can hold on to bigger bolts or nuts that the smaller gear I've got here can't hold on to. That's pretty much it for basic hand tools. You're also going to want a hammer. Hammer comes in really handy, which I've got somewhere. And the other thing I was thinking was, vice grips. A good set of vice grips is pretty handy as well, especially if you've ever got to clamp off a brake line or something like that. They can come in really handy. Moving on from there, a heap of nuts and bolts, spare nuts and bolts, screws. I basically just raided the bottom of my tool bags or my tool drawers at home, and I took a whole heap of spares there. And then that's just in case something rattles loose, which is inevitable, it's going to happen. to stop stuff rattling loose in the first place, definitely want to take a bottle of thread lock or Loctite, like that sort of stuff I've got there. I've got my electrical fittings in this bag as well. A little gas soldering iron, some solder, a couple of spare ando plugs, and a heap of connectors. So this bag all lives under a seat in the car. Got some duct tape, I've got some zip ties, some fencing wire, some chemi weld, which I need to replace because I've squashed it. Some electrical tape, really handy. Definitely need a multimeter. And that's basically it for this bag. Moving on from there, a good tyre repair kit, essential. As you'll have seen in previous episodes, I could have used that to plug 2 tyres when I only carry one spare for the car, one spare for the caravan. So definitely need to take a tyre repair kit too. Yeah, and if you saw a couple of episodes, we had two punctures recently, and I could have actually repaired both of them temporarily to lead me into a town if I needed to. I didn't need to in that case, but it's nice to know that I could. Next is a jack. Your car's going to come with a jack. Often if you put a drawer system in the back of your car, you're going to bury your tools, your factory tools, and not be able to get to them. So definitely consider that. Even if you don't, factory jacks are not, you know, they're cheap. They're built to a budget. They don't have a heap of travel. And often the factory jack, it might be okay on your car until you get bigger wheels or a lift. It might be okay in your car even after that, but it might not work for your caravan. So I would absolutely suggest checking that if you're only taking one jack, do a practice wheel change on your car and your caravan in your driveway before you leave. And that might highlight another potential issue you'll have, which is if you're running aftermarket rims like I do, they often have security nuts. So make sure that you're definitely carrying one of those special security tools to be able to get those off. Otherwise, you'll be in a world of pain. While we're in here, actually, in that glove box, I also had a jump starter. Definitely want to take a jump starter. These things have saved my bum heaps of times. And I also have a scan tool. This is an OBD2 scan tool from iCheck. That works really well. That's probably more so to do other people's cars, or if they throw a code, or if my scan gauge isn't picking up or clearing any code that the car might throw. It's nice to have a separate brand because sometimes they'll detect and be able to clear different codes. I've also got recovery gear in the car, so I've got a dynamic rope there from Hardcore. I've got a heap of different soft shackles and stuff to recover us if we need to. I've got a shovel packed away in here, always got a shovel in the car. Max tracks are on the roof. And make sure that I've got the key for the padlock. That's attached to my normal car key bunch. And I've got a little 240 volt AC charger. I've got a charger that's lithium compatible. It's adjustable. That is just in case I need to recharge the car's cranking battery, the auxiliary batteries in the back, the caravan batteries. That one charger can charge all of them. I don't need it, but it's just like it's a backup safety plan. I've got it fit to the car because sometimes the car is packed away, you know, undercover or in a garage or in tree cover. At a caravan park, that's fine because I'd be plugged into mains and the caravan's charging, but the car doesn't. If the car sits up for a few days in shade and there's no solar coming in, it's not going to charge. So AC charger for the car there as well. And then I've got a heap of different ratchet straps, cam buckle straps, and different attachments and stuff there from Tyre Gear. That stuff comes in really, really handy. Just for, you know, I've got that jerry can there strapped away. I broke the roof rack and I was using those straps to hold the roof rack down. I've got firewood on the back of the caravan I'm holding down. At the moment, I've got the kids' hammock suspended between trees and I needed a bit more length, so I'm using some straps. If I break one of the Boss legs on the caravan, I could strap them up. There's all sorts of reasons that a good set of straps will come in handy at some point, so it's worth carrying some. I think last thing in the car that I'll talk about is just inflation and deflation gear. So I'm going to do a separate video on how I pump up and deflate the tires now, because I reckon I've got it down to an art. It's the quickest I've ever and easiest I've ever been able to do it. But I'm just talking about spares here. So I guess early on in the trip, I don't think I even ever spoke about it, but the inflator I was using broke, and then I had no way to inflate the, well, I would have had no way to inflate the tires. Luckily, I did have a spare inflator here from Oricom. Actually, I could have used this as well. That's just a really simple mechanical inflator. There's no trigger or anything on it. So yeah, just a good idea. And there's another one there actually as well. So I had a few options really. But it's a good idea to have just a few redundancies, because you don't want to be in the middle of nowhere with flat tires and no way to pump them up. I've got a air blower here to blow out filters and stuff like that. Now, think about how you're going to inflate your caravan tires. One hose off your air compressor mounted in the back of your car may not reach the caravan tires. I carry a spare hose for that reason, or if I have a blowout or something like that, you want a redundancy. A second air hose is a must, I reckon. Actually, I found that with the Oricom inflator that I can actually pump the caravan up from the car with just the one air hose using that Oricom inflator. But yeah, nice to have a spare hose if I do blow something out. Oh, a gas butane torch is not a bad one either. That'll help you do some soldering in a pinch. Maybe some brazing if you've got some of that to do. But it'll also help you get a really stuck nut off if you need to. This and a few blows with a hammer will often loosen up a really stuck nut. Either that or some water dispersant, some WD-40 or something. And I think that's all the gear in the car. I can't think of anything else.
Would it vary depending on what kind of car you have and how modern it is and all that stuff?
Yeah. Tiff's just brought up a good point. If you didn't hear that, she was saying, would your spares and tools and stuff vary if you had a different car? Absolutely. I've got a new Land Cruiser. If I was running like an old, there's certain cars, you know, like if I was running a 70 series, I'd probably carry spare wheel bearings. If I was running an older an older Patrol, I might carry, you know, a thermostat housing, some heater hose, some coolant hoses, stuff like that. So different cars will have different spares that you carry for them. I'm not actually carrying any spare parts for the car in the car. Yeah, I don't think I need them for the 300, to be honest with you. But I do carry in the Caravan, so we might as well roll onto that now. If we're doing a lot of crappy dusty roads, and I reckon I've sucked a lot of dirt into that air filter, I want to have a spare air filter. I also want to have a spare fuel filter. I think you should definitely carry those two as a minimum as spare parts for your car. If you pick up dirty fuel, that's going to ruin your holiday, so you want to be able to change that fuel filter if you need to. Again, like Tiff said, you might want to carry spare belts, pulleys, bearings, stuff like that. Definitely have a chat to your regular mechanic and ask them. Depending on how old your car is and what model car is, there will be spares you want to carry. I carried more spares for the D-Max. I used to even carry a spare front axle, which I had to use, a CV. So yeah, chat to your mechanic about that. But yeah, I keep those spare filters in the Caravan. I keep that spare air hose in the Caravan. I've got a spare wheel brace in the Caravan. I use a drill to put the legs up and down with a 1/2-inch bit. I've got spare battery and I've got a charger for that. I've got spare 1/2-inch bits and even a mechanical arm, just in case the drill fails or I lose it. I still want to be able to put these legs up and down. Spare extensions for the boss legs. A water transfer hose to transfer water from a bladder that I take away with us into the Caravan. That means that I can pick up water. If we're parked up, say here, for 2 weeks and we run out of water in the Caravan, I can drive away in the car, top the bladder up in town, drive back, transfer water from the bladder into the Caravan, so that's really handy. We'll stick with plumbing and stuff for a second. I carry some spare PVC pipe fittings, glue, a hacksaw. That's to repair grey water pipes and things like that. They're pretty susceptible to rock damage. I've already had to fix the grey water outlet on this van once, even though we've got rock shields in place. In fact, I'll show you quickly. Check that out. I've got a really good aluminium shield there. Look how bent it is from taking really big impacts from rocks and rough roads. It was totally covered in lagging, but all the lagging's just been sandblasted off, peppered with rocks and stuff. So I have had to repair that once already. I am going to get some more poo noodle or lagging to cover that again. But yeah, that's one of the most susceptible parts on a Caravan is those grey water hoses. It's not a big deal if they break. It's not a showstopper or anything like that. but I want to have spare parts to be able to fix it while we're on the road. So that was all the stuff for the grey water. Also taking some plumbing tape, some PVC tape, some duct tape, spare parts for my toilet cassette. I do run 2 toilet cassettes so that we get longer off grid. It also means that I've got, you know, if we were to split a cassette or something failed on it, like the latch or something failed on it, I've got an entire spare one that I can rob parts off or simply use. Internal plumbing, I've got a spare length of hose there. I've got a heap of different John Guest push fittings, some 3-way ones, some straight connectors. So say you have a leak in a pipe, like a pipe burst, I can cut out that section and I can just put a straight connector in, or I can replace the hose with that length I've got there. So a few options there. I've also got a heap of those locking clips for the John Guest stuff, which is, if you've got a van that doesn't have the locking clips, I would suggest you go through it and you put locking clips on every John Guest fitting, because that saves them ever coming loose, and it might save you flooding your van. A hacksaw to cut up PVC bits, also to cut, you know, any sort of metal or anything I need to, if I ever have to. I've got some spare shackles for connecting the car to the caravan. Also some smaller shackles. You will find places that you need those. For instance, I need them for my stone stomper there. Also, if you've got similar suspension to me, which most off-road vans do, you'll see you've got these spring retaining chains. Now these are really clever. They've actually got locking split pins through them. But if you were to ever lose one of those, some spare shackles is a good idea, just so you never have dramas with your maxing out your shocks or even displacing a spring. So a good idea to bring some of those small shackles. Spare trailer plug and spare Anderson plugs, which you already saw I carry in the car. They're a good idea because inevitably at some point, if you do enough rough roads, they will probably fall out. They'll come loose. They'll drag along the floor, which mine already have once, and I actually probably need to replace them soon. And you'll wear all the plastic off and damage the plug. So good idea to bring spare plugs. Spare inverter controller, that's for the car. It's not a must, but I just had it, so I brought it. Some spare fuses for things. So a big MIDI fuse there, some smaller 12-volt fuses there. Some spare hose, bits and pieces. I had a lot more than that. And we keep it in a little bag that goes in our stone guard bags. And I pulled it out, left it on top of the toolbox, drove away, and I've actually lost them all. But I've got just enough to get me by, but I've lost all my spares. So next time I'm near a hardware store, I'll be getting some more. That is a gauge from Topogy that counts how many litres of water pass through it. And I might show in a future episode what I use that for. Because I run a Topogy gauge inside the caravan, so I know exactly how much water I have left. If I use, say, half the tanks in this, and then I pour in a 20-litre jerry or a 200-litre bladder or something, but it's not quite full, to be able to reset the Topogy to an accurate volume, so I know exactly how many litres went in, I use this to count the litres going in. If that doesn't make sense, I'm going to explain that better in a future episode. Some more plumbing bits and pieces. Spare wheel bearings for the caravan. That's a spare hubcap. There is a spare complete wheel bearing there, vacuum sealed and already preloaded with grease. That is a really good idea. Save you packing your own bearings at camp, getting filthy. So entire spare wheel bearing there. Spare split pin for the castle nut. Another spare wheel bearing there. Some spare solder, that was from my electrical stuff. Some high temp bearing grease. Now, I take the one tube away with me. I use this in my grease gun if I need to. If I need to grease nipples on suspension components, the drop down legs, the hitch, underneath the car, I can use the same grease. So I do take a grease gun, and I can also use this as bearing grease to pack wheel bearings on the car or the caravan. So one tub of grease will do all of that in a pinch, which is what you need. A can of water dispersant, just to help screws and bolts and stuff come loose or clean electrical connections. That's really handy. Some stuff to wash the car and the caravan. Not a necessity, but nice to have. So I've got some car wash there, a sprayer that'll just fit onto a normal hose fitting, and a couple of different washcloths there. Moving on, I take two 240-volt leads just in case one goes wrong, and a few different connectors. I take two complete separate 10-meter water hoses. I can join them together in a pinch if I need a little bit more length with something like that. Otherwise, if I have a blowout or I lose one or whatever, I've got a spare. I only take the one grey water hose because, you know, if it breaks, who cares? It's not a deal breaker. And I reckon that's it, guys. I might have missed a little bit or two. I don't think I have. But yeah, all that gear lives in the toolbox in the front here. Heaps of room for that. And then all this gear, like I said, most of these bags either fit up in the K-on shelf or underneath the seats. Even the jack, I wrap it in a towel and it goes underneath the seat somewhere. So I'm actually gonna use some of these tools and stuff while I've got them out right now. Tighten up a wheel bearing on the Caravan. We'll talk about Caravan and car maintenance in a future episode. Hopefully that helps you. Yeah, couple of bits and pieces for you to have a look at. Spares for your car, spares for your Caravan, basic hand tools, and that should get you out of trouble. Even if you're not, you know, you don't have to be a tradesman or like really mechanically minded. Still carry the gear, because you might be in the middle of nowhere and someone pulls up and they say, look, I can help you, but I don't have the spare part or I don't have the tool. If you've got it, the two of you can put your heads together and get something sorted out to get back on the road. Anyway, I'll wrap this up there. Cheers, guys. See you in the next one.